The lights on Haven 7 station were always dim. It was an old place, built 50 years ago and forgotten by everyone who mattered. The station floated at the edge of known space, far from the rich planets and busy trade routes. Only poor people lived here, people who had nowhere else to go. Kang Ti-ho was one of them. He was 28 years old with messy black hair and hands that were always dirty with oil and grease. He ran a small repair shop near the station's junkyard. The sign above his door said Ti-ho's Repairs in faded letters. He fixed anything people brought to him. Broken hover bikes, old computers, ship engines that had seen better days. He was good at his job, maybe the best mechanic on the whole station. But being the best on Haven 7 did not mean much. There was no money here. That night Ti-ho was closing his shop. He was tired. He had worked for 14 hours fixing an old cargo ship's engine. The owner had paid him half of what he promised and said he would pay the rest later. Ti-ho knew he would never see that money, but what could he do? He needed every credit he could get. He counted his money. It was not enough for rent. It was barely enough for food. He sighed and put the credits in his pocket. Tomorrow would be another long day. Then he heard it. A sound like thunder, then a terrible scream of metal. Ti-ho ran outside. Above him, cutting through the dark sky of the station's dome, he saw a ship. It was small and beautiful, made of silver metal that seemed to glow, but it was on fire. Smoke poured from its engines. It was falling fast. The ship crashed into the junkyard behind his shop. The impact shook the ground under Ti-ho's feet. Fire and smoke rose into the air. For a moment, Ti-ho stood frozen. His brain told him to stay away. The ship could explode. Whatever was inside was not his problem. He was poor. He was tired. He had enough troubles of his own. But his feet were already moving. He grabbed his tool bag and ran toward the crash. The heat hit him first, then the smoke. He covered his mouth with his sleeve and pushed forward. The ship had torn a path through the piles of junk, sending old metal and broken machines flying everywhere. When he reached the ship, he saw it was worse than he thought. The hull was cracked open. Strange liquid leaked from the engines. It smelled like flowers and burning plastic at the same time. The door was stuck, bent by the crash. Ti-ho pulled out his cutting torch and went to work. The metal was strong, stronger than anything he had seen before, but he had cut through worse. After 5 minutes, he made a hole big enough to climb through. Inside the ship, the air was thick with smoke. Red lights flashed warnings in a language he could not read. And there, in the middle of the broken cockpit, he saw them. 2 women, but they were not human. They were huge. Even lying down, Ti-ho could tell they were at least 9 feet tall. Their skin was silver blue, smooth like polished stone. Their hair was long and white, spread across the floor like silk. They wore clothes made of some shining material that looked like liquid metal. One of them was not moving. Silver blood pooled under her body. The other was awake, her eyes open and fixed on Ti-ho. Her eyes were pure silver with no pupils, and they burned with anger and fear. She spoke in a language Ti-ho did not know. Her voice was weak but proud. Then she switched to Universal Common, the trade language everyone in the galaxy knew. "Stay back, small creature. Do not touch us." Ti-ho ignored her. He moved to the unconscious one first. She was hurt badly. A metal beam had fallen on her chest. Her breathing was shallow and wet. She needed help now or she would die. "I said stay back," the conscious one shouted. She tried to move, but she cried out in pain. Ti-ho looked at her and saw why. Her leg was trapped under a heavy panel. The bone was probably broken. "Listen," Ti-ho said, keeping his voice calm. "I don't know who you are, I don't care. But if I don't help your friend right now, she is going to die. So you can yell at me later. Right now, be quiet and let me work." The alien woman stared at him. No one had ever spoken to her like that. For a moment, she was too shocked to respond. Ti-ho used that moment to get to work. First, he checked the fuel lines. One was leaking badly. If it reached the fire outside, the whole ship would explode. He grabbed a sealant from his bag and closed the leak. Then he found the ship's life support system. It was failing. He rerouted power from the lights to keep the air clean. Then he turned to the unconscious woman. The beam on her chest was heavy, heavier than anything he could lift alone. He looked around and found a broken pipe. He used it as a lever, pushing with all his strength. Slowly, painfully, the beam moved. When there was enough space, he pulled her free. She was still bleeding. Tiho did not know alien medicine, but he knew wounds. He tore strips from his own shirt and pressed them against the cut on her side. The silver blood soaked through instantly. He pressed harder. "Keep pressure here," he told the conscious alien. "Can you reach?" She looked at him with those strange silver eyes. Then slowly, she reached out and pressed her hand where he showed her. Her arm was shaking from pain, but she held firm. "Now for her." Tiho studied the panel trapping her leg. It was connected to the wall by twisted metal. He could not lift it, but he could cut it. He fired up his torch again and worked carefully. One wrong move and he would cut her leg instead of the metal. Sweat ran down his face. His arms ached, but he kept going. After an hour, the panel came free. The alien woman gasped in pain as Tiho carefully pulled her leg out. It was broken in 2 places. He had nothing to set it with, but he found some straight metal rods and more strips of his shirt. He made a rough splint. It was not pretty, but it would hold. Outside, he heard sirens. The station's emergency services were coming, but they were slow on Haven 7. They always were. Tiho sat back and looked at the 2 alien women. The unconscious one was breathing better now. The bleeding had slowed. The other one was watching him with an expression he could not read. "Why?" she asked finally. "Why did you help us? You do not know us. We could be enemies of your kind." Tiho shrugged. He was too tired to think of a smart answer. "You were hurt. You needed help, that's all." The alien woman was silent for a long moment. In her culture, debts were sacred things. A life saved was a bond that could never be broken. This small, dirty creature did not know what he had done. He did not know who they were. But she knew. And as the first light of morning came through the broken hull of the ship, she made a silent promise. Whatever it took, however long it took, she would repay this debt. The human had saved their lives. Now their lives were tied to his, whether he wanted it or not. 3 days passed since the crash. Tiho's apartment was small. It had 1 room with a bed, a tiny kitchen, and a bathroom that barely worked. The walls were thin, and he could hear his neighbors arguing every night. It was not much, but it was home. Now it felt even smaller with 2 giant alien women inside. He had given them his bed. It was too short for them, so their legs hung over the edge, but it was better than the floor. The unconscious one, the younger sister, had not woken up yet. Her wounds were healing slowly. The older one, who Tiho learned was named Yuna, refused to leave her side. Tiho slept in his shop, on a pile of old blankets between the machines. It was cold and uncomfortable, but he did not complain. He had slept in worse places when he was younger. The first day, he spent all his money on medicine. Alien medicine was expensive, very expensive. The pharmacy owner on Haven 7 looked at Tiho like he was crazy when he asked for Velari-compatible healing gel. That was how Tiho learned what species they were. The Velari. He had heard of them before. A powerful empire somewhere in the central galaxy. Rich, proud, and very far from places like Haven 7. The medicine cost more than 2 months of his rent. Tiho paid without thinking. He could figure out the money later. Right now, a woman was dying in his apartment. He spent hours on the station's old computer network, searching for information about Velari biology. Most of the files were locked or corrupted, but he found enough. Their blood carried oxygen differently than human blood. Their bones were denser but healed faster. They needed certain minerals that humans did not need. Tiho found those minerals in a nutrition shop. He bought them with the last of his credits. That night he ate instant noodles for dinner. He had a whole box of them stored for emergencies. Cheap, filling, and they tasted like nothing, but they kept him alive. The second day, Yuna finally spoke to him. She was sitting by her sister's bed when T-Ho came in with more medicine. Her silver eyes followed his every move. He could feel her watching him like a hunter watching prey. "You have not asked for payment," she said suddenly. T-Ho looked up from checking the younger sister's bandages. "What?" "You saved our lives. You are spending your money on our care. Yet you have not asked who we are. You have not demanded anything in return." Her voice was cold, suspicious. "Why?" T-Ho thought about it for a moment, then he shrugged. "Would it change anything?" "What do you mean?" "If you told me you were important people, would that change whether you need help right now?" He adjusted the bandage carefully. "Your sister is hurt. She needs medicine and rest. That's what matters. Everything else can wait." Yuna stared at him. In her world, everything was about power and politics. Every action had a hidden meaning. Every gift came with strings attached. She had been raised to trust no one, to see every kindness as a trap. But this human did not make sense. He was clearly poor. His clothes were old and patched. His apartment was tiny. The food he ate was barely fit for animals, yet he had spent everything he had on two strangers. "You are strange," Yuna said finally. T-Ho laughed softly. "I've been told that before." On the third day, the younger sister woke up. Her name was Hana, and she was different from Yuna. Where Yuna was hard and cold, Hana was soft and warm. When she opened her silver eyes for the first time, she looked around the small room with wonder instead of suspicion. The first thing she saw was T-Ho. He had fallen asleep in a chair next to her bed. Dark circles were under his eyes. He had not slept properly in days. His hands, resting on his lap, were covered in small cuts and burns from working on their ship. Hana reached out and touched his hand gently. T-Ho woke with a start. For a moment he looked confused. Then he saw Hana looking at him, and his face broke into a tired smile. "Hey," he said softly. "You're awake, how do you feel?" "Weak," Hana admitted. Her voice was musical, lighter than her sister's, but alive. "Yuna told me what you did." She squeezed his hand. "Thank you." T-Ho felt his face grow warm. He was not used to being thanked. It was nothing. Anyone would have done the same. "No," Hana said seriously, "they would not have. Most people would have left us to die, or they would have called the authorities and let them decide our fate. You did neither. You helped us with your own hands, your own money, your own time." Her silver eyes were deep and sincere. "That is not nothing." From the doorway, Yuna watched them. Her arms were crossed and her expression was unreadable. But inside, she felt something she had not felt in a very long time, something that scared her. She felt respect. Among the Velari, there was an ancient custom called the life debt. It was older than their empire, older than their written history. When someone saved your life at great cost to themselves, you owed them a debt that could never be paid with money or gifts. The only way to balance such a debt was to offer your own life in service. Yuna had thought such customs were outdated, old traditions that had no place in the modern galaxy. But standing there, watching this small, poor human care for her sister with such gentleness, she understood why those customs had been created. Some debts were too great for gold. Some kindness could not be measured in credits. That afternoon, T-Ho made them food. It was just instant noodles again, the only thing he had left. He apologized as he served it. "I'm sorry it's not better," he said, looking embarrassed. "I'm not a good cook, and this is all I have right now." Hana tasted the noodles carefully. They were bland and simple, nothing like the rich food she was used to in the palace. But somehow, they were the best thing she had ever eaten. "It's wonderful," she said and meant it. Yuna ate in silence. The food was terrible, but she finished every bite. It felt wrong to waste anything this human gave them. As the days passed, Yuna began to notice things. She noticed that Tiho always gave them the best of what he had. When there was only enough food for two, he said he was not hungry. When the heating broke, he gave them extra blankets from his own bed. When Hana needed more medicine, he sold some of his tools to buy it. She noticed that he never complained, never asked for thanks, never made them feel like burdens. And she noticed something else, something that made her heart feel strange. She noticed the way he smiled when Hana laughed, the way his eyes lit up when he talked about engines and machines, the way he hummed old songs while he worked, not knowing anyone was listening. He was kind, genuinely, purely kind, not because he wanted something, not because he expected a reward, but because that was simply who he was. Yuna did not know such people existed. On the night of the third day, after Tiho had gone to sleep in his shop, Yuna sat by the window of his apartment. The stars outside were cold and distant. Somewhere out there, her father's ships were surely searching for them. The emperor would not rest until his daughters were found. When he found them, what would he do? What would she tell him? She looked at her sister, sleeping peacefully now, healing slowly but surely. Then she looked at the door that led to the shop, where a small human was sleeping on the cold floor because he had given them his only bed. "We owe him everything, Yuna," Hana had said before falling asleep, "and I do not know how to repay such a debt." Neither did Yuna, but she knew one thing for certain. Whatever happened next, she would make sure this human was rewarded, even if she had to fight her own father to do it, even if she had to change the laws of the empire. Kang Tiho had earned more than gratitude. He had earned the protection of the Velari royal family. He just did not know it yet. The morning started like any other on Haven 7. The station's old lights flickered on slowly, pretending to be sunlight. People walked to their jobs with tired faces. Ships came and went from the docking bays, carrying cargo nobody cared about. Tiho woke up on the floor of his shop with a sore back. He stretched, yawned, and started heating water for tea. Today he needed to fix Mrs. Park's air purifier. She was old and lived alone, and she never had enough money to pay him properly. But her lungs were bad, and she needed clean air to breathe. He would fix it anyway and tell her to pay when she could. He was thinking about this when the station shook. Not a small shake like when a big ship docked. This was different. The whole station groaned like a living thing in pain. Tools fell from shelves. The lights flickered and died, then came back on red. Emergency lights. Something was very wrong. Tiho ran outside. Other people were running too, but they were running away from something. He looked up through the station's clear dome and felt his heart stop. A ship hung in space above them. But calling it a ship was like calling an ocean a puddle. It was massive, bigger than anything Tiho had ever seen, bigger than the station itself. It was shaped like a great sword, pointed and deadly, and it was made of the same silver metal as the crashed shuttle. More ships appeared behind it, dozens of them, then hundreds. They filled the sky like stars, surrounding the station completely. "What is that?" someone screamed. Tiho knew. He had read about Velari warships while researching their medicine. This was an Imperial dreadnought, the flagship of the Velari Emperor himself. It could destroy planets. It had destroyed planets. And it was here for Yuna and Hana. He ran back to his apartment. The sisters were awake, looking out the window at the ship above. Hana's face was pale. Yuna's jaw was tight. "Your father?" Tiho asked, though he already knew the answer. Yuna nodded slowly. "He found us." "Is that bad?" Yuna did not answer. That was answer enough. Outside, smaller ships began descending from the dreadnought. Silver shuttles, sleek and fast, dropping through the station's atmosphere shields like rain. They landed everywhere. In the docking bays, in the streets, on the rooftops. Soldiers poured out of them, tall and silver-skinned, carrying weapons that glowed with blue light. The people of Haven 7 had never seen anything like this. Some ran, some hid, most just stood frozen, too scared to move. The soldiers did not hurt anyone. They did not need to. Their presence alone was enough. They moved through the station in perfect formation, searching every building, every ship, every corner. They were looking for something. Someone. T-Ho stood in front of the door to his apartment. His heart was beating fast, but he did not move. Behind him, Yuna and Hana were silent. "Maybe you should go to them," he said quietly. "They're your people, your family. You'll be safe with them." Hana stepped forward and took his hand. "You will not be safe if Father thinks you kidnapped us or hurt us in any way." "I didn't." "We know that, but Father does not know you. He knows only that his daughters disappeared and were found in the home of a stranger." Her silver eyes were full of worry. "Velari justice is swift and harsh. He might not give you time to explain." T-Ho felt cold fear in his stomach, but he kept his voice steady. "Then maybe you should explain first. Go to him, tell him what happened." "No," Yuna said suddenly. Both T-Ho and Hana looked at her in surprise. Yuna walked forward until she was standing next to T-Ho. Her injured leg was still weak and she had to lean on a cane, but her eyes were fierce. "I will not run to Father like a scared child, and I will not leave this human to face his soldiers alone. He saved our lives. The least we can do is stand beside him." T-Ho wanted to argue, but there was no time. The sound of boots echoed outside. Heavy footsteps, many of them coming closer. The door to his shop exploded inward. T-Ho was thrown backward by the force. He hit a shelf and fell to the ground, tools raining down around him. When he looked up, he was surrounded. 10 Velari soldiers stood in his shop. They were huge, even bigger than Yuna and Hana, and their armor made them look like silver giants. Their weapons were pointed at T-Ho's chest. Blue light hummed at the ends of their guns, ready to fire. One of them spoke in Velari. T-Ho did not understand, but the tone was clear: threat, warning, accusation. "I am not armed," T-Ho said, raising his hand slowly. "I'm just a mechanic. I helped them. I did not hurt them." The soldier did not seem to care. He stepped forward, weapon raised. Then a voice spoke. It was deep and powerful, like the sound of mountains moving. It filled the room completely, making everything else seem small. "Stand down." The soldiers froze instantly. They lowered their weapons and stepped aside, creating a path to the door. And through that path walked the Emperor of the Velari. He was the largest being T-Ho had ever seen, 10 feet tall, maybe more. His silver skin seemed to glow with inner light. His white hair fell past his shoulders like a waterfall of snow. His eyes were pure silver, ancient and cold, and filled with the weight of centuries. He wore no armor, only simple robes of dark blue. He did not need armor. His presence alone was enough to make T-Ho feel like an ant before a god. This was Emperor Sung, ruler of 200 star systems, commander of the greatest fleet in the known galaxy, a being who had lived for 500 years and seen empires rise and fall. And he was standing in T-Ho's tiny repair shop. "Father," Hana rushed forward, but soldiers blocked her path. She struggled against them. "Father, please, he saved us. He spent everything he had to keep us alive." The Emperor raised his hand and Hana fell silent. His silver eyes moved slowly across the room. They took in the old tools, the broken machines, the cheap shelves and dirty floor. They took in T-Ho's patched clothes and thin frame. Then they rested on Yuna, who was standing with her cane, her chin raised high. "Daughter," the Emperor said. His voice was calm, but there was something dangerous underneath. "You have caused me great worry." "I know, Father, and I am sorry for that." Yuna did not look away from his eyes. "But before you judge this human, you must know the truth. Our ship was sabotaged. We were meant to die. This man found us in the wreckage and saved our lives. He owed us nothing. We are strangers to him, yet he gave us his bed, his food, his money. He sold his own tools to buy medicine for Hana." The Emperor's expression did not change. Is this true? Yes, father. Hana had stopped struggling. Tears were in her eyes. Every word. He is the reason we are alive. Please do not hurt him. For a long moment, the emperor was silent. His ancient eyes studied Tiho like a scientist studying an insect. Tiho forced himself to stand straight, though his legs wanted to fold. You, the emperor said finally, speaking directly to Tiho, you are the mechanic. Tiho swallowed hard. Yes. A human. Yes. And you saved my daughters, both of them, at great cost to yourself. Tiho hesitated. I did what anyone would have done. No, the emperor's voice was firm. You did what few would have done. My advisors told me to burn this station to ash and search the rubble. My generals told me to question everyone here until someone talked, but my daughters told me to find the man who saved them and treat him with honor. He took a step forward. The soldiers tensed, but the emperor ignored them. Then slowly, the emperor of the Velari lowered himself to one knee. Every soldier in the room gasped. Some of them looked like they might faint. Yuna's eyes went wide. Even Hana seemed shocked. A being who ruled 200 worlds, who commanded fleets that could darken suns, was kneeling before a poor human mechanic. You have my eternal gratitude, Emperor Sung said. His voice was softer now, almost gentle. And you have earned something that no human has ever been given before. He looked up at Tiho with those ancient silver eyes. I have come with an offer. Tiho's mind was spinning. The most powerful being in the galaxy was kneeling before him. Soldiers who could kill him with a thought were standing frozen in shock, and two alien princesses were watching him with expressions he could not read. This was not how he expected his morning to go. An offer, Tiho repeated, his voice barely more than a whisper. Emperor Sung rose to his full height again. Standing, he towered over Tiho like a mountain over a stone, but there was no threat in his eyes now, only something that might have been curiosity. Come, the emperor said, let us speak somewhere more appropriate. He turned and walked out of the shop. His soldiers parted before him like water. Yuna and Hana followed, and after a moment's hesitation, so did Tiho. What else could he do? Outside, the station had transformed. Velari soldiers lined every street. Silver banners hung from the buildings. A carpet of some soft material had been rolled out, leading from Tiho's shop to a large shuttle waiting nearby. Everyone on the station was watching. Tiho saw his neighbors, his customers, the people he had known for years. They stared at him with wide eyes. He was walking beside an alien emperor like they were old friends. He could not blame them for being confused. He was confused too. The shuttle took them up to the dreadnought. If Tiho thought the ship was big from outside, it was nothing compared to the inside. The hallways were wide enough for 10 men to walk side by side. The ceilings were high and covered in patterns that seemed to move and shimmer. Everything was silver and blue and more beautiful than anything Tiho had ever seen. They entered a room that the emperor called his private study. It was bigger than Tiho's entire apartment building. Windows covered one wall, showing the stars outside. Soft chairs were arranged around a low table, and strange artwork hung on the walls. Sit, the emperor said. It was not a request. Tiho sat. Yuna and Hana sat on either side of him, close enough that he could feel the warmth of their bodies. The emperor remained standing, looking out at the stars. Do you know what the Velari value above all else human? The emperor asked without turning around. Tiho thought about it. Power, wealth. No, the emperor turned to face him. Honor, duty, debt. He began to pace slowly, his robes flowing behind him. We are an old people, older than your species has had fire. In that time we have learned that there is nothing more sacred than the bonds between beings. When someone helps you, you help them in return. When someone saves your life, you owe them a debt that can never be forgotten. He stopped packing and looked directly at Tiho. My daughters were saved by you, both of them. By the ancient laws of our people, they owe you a life debt, and a life debt has only one proper payment. Tiho felt his stomach tighten. What kind of payment? The Emperor's silver eyes seemed to pierce right through him. You will choose one of my daughters to be your bride. She will be bonded to you for life, as your partner, your companion, your equal in all things. Or, if you prefer, both of my daughters may serve you as bonded companions together. This is the way of the Velari. This is how we honor those who save us. The silence in the room was so complete that Tiho could hear his own heartbeat. Marriage, the Emperor was offering him marriage to a princess, or two princesses. He looked at Yuna. Her face was like stone, completely unreadable, but her hands were clenched tight in her lap, and Tiho could see the tension in her shoulders. She was proud, fierce, a warrior who had never bowed to anyone, and now her father was offering her to a stranger like she was a prize to be won. He looked at Hana. Her silver eyes were fixed on his face, watching him carefully. She did not look angry or scared. She looked curious, like she was waiting to see what he would do. Tiho took a deep breath. With respect, Emperor, he said slowly, choosing his words carefully, I cannot accept. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The soldiers at the door shifted uncomfortably. Even the Emperor's calm expression flickered with surprise. You refuse. His voice was dangerously soft. I refuse to take what is not freely given. Tiho stood up, though his legs were shaking. I didn't save your daughters for a reward. I saved them because they needed help. That's it. That's the only reason. I don't want payment. I don't want a bride. And I especially don't want someone who is forced to be with me because of some ancient law. He looked at Yuna and Hana. You don't owe me anything, he said, speaking directly to them now. What I did was simple human kindness. Where I come from, you don't ask for payment when you help someone. You just help. That's what being human means. He turned back to the Emperor. If your daughters want to repay me, they can buy me dinner sometime. That's enough. More than enough. The room was silent. No one moved, no one breathed. Then the Emperor did something that no one expected. He laughed. It started as a low rumble deep in his chest. Then it grew, filling the room like thunder. It was not mocking or cruel. It was genuine, real. The laugh of someone who has been surprised for the first time in a very long time. Buy you dinner, the Emperor repeated, still chuckling. I offer you my daughters, the two most valuable beings in our empire, and you ask for dinner. He shook his head slowly, but he was smiling. It made him look younger somehow, more like a father and less like a god. My daughters sent me messages while I was searching for them, he said. They told me about you. They said you were different, that you were kind and selfless and unlike any being they had ever met. I thought they were exaggerating. I thought perhaps you had tricked them somehow. He walked closer to Tiho and placed a massive hand on his shoulder. The weight was heavy, but gentle. I see now that they were telling the truth. You are different, Kang Tiho, different in ways that my people have forgotten how to be. He looked at his daughters with soft eyes. Perhaps that is why they were meant to find you. Yuna finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, almost unsure. Father, what happens now? The life debt is still owed. Our laws are clear. Our laws are old, the Emperor replied, made for a time when things were simpler, but laws are written by people and people can change them. He looked back at Tiho. You have refused my daughters as brides. I accept your refusal, though I suspect both of them may have complicated feelings about it. Tiho glanced at the sisters. Hana looked almost disappointed. Yuna's cheeks seemed darker than before, like she was blushing. But I will not let you refuse all reward, the Emperor continued. You saved the lives of my children. That must be honored, so let me make a different offer. He raised his hand, and a hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed a planet, beautiful and green, with silver cities gleaming on its surface. This is our homeworld. I will give you a place there, a home, a workshop, everything you need to live and work. You will be named a friend of the Velari Empire, a title that has never been given to a human before. You will have the freedom to travel anywhere in our territory. You will be treated with honor and respect wherever you go. The hologram shifted, showing different places, beautiful landscapes, advanced technology, ships and stations and wonders Tiho could not even name. "This is my offer," the emperor said, "not as payment for a debt but as a gift, from a father who is grateful that his daughters are alive." Tiho looked at the hologram, then at the emperor, then at Yuna and Hana. A few days ago, he was a poor mechanic eating instant noodles in a tiny apartment. Now, an alien emperor was offering him a new life among the stars. It was crazy, impossible, the kind of thing that only happened in stories. But then again, so was everything else that had happened since that shuttle crashed in his junkyard. "Can I still eat instant noodles?" he asked. The emperor blinked in surprise, then he laughed again. "You can eat whatever you want, little human, whatever you want." Tiho smiled. It felt strange on his face, like his mouth had forgotten how to do it properly. "Then I accept." Hana clapped her hands together in joy. Even Yuna's stone face cracked into something that might have been a smile. And somewhere in his heart, Tiho felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Hope. The next few days passed in a blur. The emperor had business to attend to. Whoever had sabotaged his daughter's ship was still out there, and he would not rest until they were found. But before he left, he gave Tiho a small silver device that looked like a coin. "This marks you as a friend of the Velari," he explained. "Show it to any Velari soldier and they will protect you with their lives. Show it to any merchant and they will give you their best goods. Show it to any ship captain and they will take you wherever you want to go." Tiho held the small coin in his hand. It weighed almost nothing, but he understood that it was more valuable than anything he had ever owned. "Thank you," he said simply. The emperor nodded. He looked at his daughters for a long moment, then back at Tiho. "Take care of them," he said quietly. "They have chosen to stay with you against my advice. I do not fully understand why, but I trust their judgment." Tiho blinked. "Stay with me." The emperor smiled, but there was something sad in it. "Ask them yourself." Then he was gone, walking back to his shuttle with his soldiers behind him. The dreadnought left Haven 7 the same day, disappearing into the stars as quickly as it had come. And Tiho was left standing in his tiny shop, holding a silver coin, wondering what just happened. He found Yuna and Hana in his apartment. They were sitting on his bed, talking quietly to each other in their own language. When he walked in, they both stopped and looked at him. "The emperor said you're staying," Tiho said. It came out more like a question than a statement. Hana smiled. "Yes." "Why?" Yuna stood up. Her leg was almost fully healed now, and she moved with the grace of a predator. She walked toward Tiho until she was standing right in front of him, looking down at his face. "We are not staying because of the debt," she said. Her voice was stiff, like she was forcing the words out. "The debt is complicated. Father's offer was meant to settle it, but it does not feel settled, not to me." She looked away, and Tiho was surprised to see that her silver cheeks were darker than usual. Was she blushing? "I have been a warrior all my life," Yuna continued. "I have fought in battles, I have commanded ships. I have been trained since birth to be strong, to be hard, to never show weakness." She paused. "But when I was trapped in that wreckage, bleeding and broken, a small human came to save me. You did not care that I was bigger than you. You did not care that I was angry and scared. You just helped." She finally looked at him again. "No one has ever done that for me. No one has ever looked past my armor and seen that I might need help. You did, and I do not know how to feel about that, but I know that I am not ready to leave. Not yet." Tiho did not know what to say. He had never been good with words, especially not words like these. Hana saved him by walking over and taking his hand. What my sister is trying to say, Hana said with a gentle smile, is that we like you. We want to learn more about you, about humans, about this strange kindness that seems to come so naturally to your people. It's not just humans, Tiho said. Plenty of humans are cruel, I've met them. But not you, Hana squeezed his hand. You are different, and we want to understand why. She looked at her sister. We have spent our whole lives in palaces and warships, Hana said. We have been surrounded by luxury and power, but we have never really known anyone who was not trying to use us. You have no power. You have no money. You have nothing to offer us except your company. And that makes you the most honest person we have ever met. Tiho looked between the two sisters, a warrior princess who had never asked for help in her life, a gentle princess who had never known true friendship, both of them choosing to stay with him, a nobody mechanic from a forgotten station. It made no sense, but then again, nothing about the last week made sense. I still eat instant noodles every day, he warned them, and I snore loudly. Hana laughed. It was a beautiful sound like bells ringing. Even Yuna's lips twitched into something that might have been a smile. We will survive, Yuna said dryly. Leaving Haven 7 was easier than Tiho expected. He had nothing to pack. His clothes fit in one small bag. His tools fit in another. His apartment was rented, not owned, and the landlord was happy to let him go. The man probably thought Tiho was crazy, but he was too scared of the alien women to say anything. Mrs. Park came to say goodbye. Her eyes were wet with tears. You fixed my air purifier so many times, she said, holding his hands. You never asked for payment when I could not pay. Where will I find another mechanic like you? Tiho felt his throat tighten. The station has other repair shops. They'll take care of you. They are not you, she squeezed his hands. Go, live your life, but do not forget us little people. Never, Tiho promised. He meant it. The journey to the Velari homeworld took 3 weeks. They traveled on a ship that Yuna called small, but it was bigger than anything Tiho had ever been on. He spent most of his time in the engine room, amazed by the technology. The engines ran on principles he had never even heard of. It was like learning to read all over again. Hana spent time with him there, asking questions about his life, his home, his planet. She wanted to know everything about humans, what they ate, how they lived, what they believed in. Tiho answered as best he could, though he often felt like a poor example of his species. Yuna was more distant. She spent most of her time in her room or in the ship's training area, fighting holographic enemies with brutal efficiency. But sometimes, late at night, Tiho would find her sitting in the observation deck, staring at the stars. One night he sat down beside her. They were quiet for a long time, then Yuna spoke. I do not understand you, she said. I have been trying for weeks and I still do not understand. What's there to understand? I'm just a mechanic. No, Yuna shook her head. You are more than that. You had nothing. You still have nothing compared to us, and yet you gave everything to help strangers. You refused riches and titles and the chance to marry royalty. You asked only for dinner. She looked at him with those silver eyes. Why? Tiho thought about it for a while. When I was young, he said slowly, my parents died, a ship crash like yours. I was left alone on Haven 7 with nothing. No money, no family, no future, he paused. A woman found me. Old Mrs. Kim, the owner of a repair shop. She took me in, taught me everything I know. She never asked for anything in return. She just helped. He looked at the stars. She died a few years ago, cancer. I couldn't save her. His voice was thick. But before she died, she told me something. She said that the universe is cold and dark and full of terrible things. The only way to make it better is to be kind, even when it hurts, even when it costs you, because kindness spreads. One person helps another who helps another who helps another, and eventually the darkness gets a little smaller. He looked at Yuna. That's why I helped you, because someone helped me once, and I'm just passing it on. Yuna was silent for a long moment. Then slowly, she reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were long and cool against his skin. "Thank you," she said softly, "for teaching me that there are still good beings in the galaxy." They sat together in the starlight, hand in hand, watching the universe go by. When they finally arrived on the Velari homeworld, Tiho stepped off the ship and stared in wonder. The sky was purple and pink. The cities gleamed like silver dreams. Ships flew through the air like birds, and everywhere he looked there were Velari, tall and beautiful, watching him with curious eyes. He was a long way from Haven 7. Hana stood on his left, smiling at his amazement. Yuna stood on his right, trying to hide her own smile. "Welcome to your new home," Hana said. Tiho took a deep breath of alien air. It smelled like flowers and metal and possibility. "It's beautiful," he said. And as he walked forward into this new world with two alien princesses at his side, he realized something important. He was still a mechanic. He would always be a mechanic, no matter where he lived or what titles he held. He fixed broken things. That was who he was. But maybe, just maybe, he could fix more than machines here. Maybe he could fix the distance between humans and Velari. Maybe he could show them that the smallest beings could make the biggest difference. And maybe, just maybe, he had finally found a place where he belonged. The stars had brought him here for a reason, and whatever came next, he was ready. After all, he was King Tiho. He had faced emperors, saved princesses, and turned down the offer of a lifetime. How hard could the rest of the galaxy be?